ago when it was basically confirmed and set in stone that we'd be seeing John Cena versus The Rock in a rematch at WrestleMania 29. The match that I also desperately wanted to see at the event was Undertaker versus CM Punk. With, of course, CM Punk being champion, WWE champion, that is, going into the event, going up against The Undertaker's 20-0 streak at WrestleMania. And, of course, the way that I would have booked it is that Undertaker would have won the championship at WrestleMania, vacated the next night on Raw, potentially retired. The tournament would have been held to determine a new WWE champion going to the title's 50th anniversary on April 29th, 2013, which happens to fall in an episode of Monday Night Raw. Of course, it's my only wishful thinking and dream booking that did not end up happening after CM Punk had his 434-day reign as WWE champion come to an end at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view back in January when he lost it to The Rock. But nonetheless, we are still getting the match Undertaker versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 29, regardless, after it was set in stone last week that Undertaker or CM Punk qualified to face Undertaker WrestleMania after defeating the likes of Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Big Show in a fatal four-way match on Old School Raw. So that's great to see. Even though the title or the match won't be a title match regardless, I'm still excited for the match nonetheless. So even with that being said, the match was kicked into high gear this past week to build for the match with CM Punk taunting the real-life death of Paul Bearer, who passed away last week at the young age of 58. But with that being said, a lot of people are kind of on the fence as to whether they should incorporate the legitimate death of Paul Bearer, I being one of those people that have both enjoyed it and are a bit of against it at the same exact time. I've spoken to a number of people, one of my teachers being one of them, who happens to be a CM Punk fan, who watched Monday Night Raw last night, who said that he was a bit critical of using Paul Bearer in a storyline involving, the legitimate death of Paul Bearer. We're not talking about the death of Paul Bearer in storyline, the man who was buried in concrete back in 2004 at the Great American Bash pay-per-view, not the guy who was thrown into a parking lot at the hands of Kane back in late 2010, or the man who was left in a cooler or a refrigerator of sorts last year on Monday Night Raw at the hands of Kane. We're talking about a legitimate death. Paul Bearer, a man that we'll never be seeing on WWE television again, a very unfortunate passing at that. So with that being said, was it really wise of WWE to incorporate the death of Paul Bearer into last night's episode of Raw, as specifically the feud between Undertaker and CM Punk? Now, I would have been disappointed had they done with the thing with CM Punk, because if you've been living under a rock and you did not watch Raw last night, the show kicked off with the video package of Paul Bearer, one that aired on WWE's YouTube channel last week, and it was on the YouTube channel, and they were discussing the career of Paul Bearer over the last number of decades. A very touching video that aired at the top of the hour on Monday Night Raw last night. Undertaker came out, paid tribute to the video, but before he could, with the urn in hand as well. Not to mention that, as well as as the fact that CM Punk came out, interrupted the ceremony and the tribute, and ended up taking the urn later that night after losing to Kane in the main event in a no disqualification match, which is a great match, by the way. But even still, a lot of people are kind of skeptical of the fact that CM Punk is not necessarily taking shots, but incorporating the death of Paul Bearer into a feud with The Undertaker. I, for one, am not against it, and I'm not all that for it either. Although I am a huge fan of both Punk and Taker, I think it would have been wise just to leave it the way it is. But even still, I'm happy they acknowledged the death of Paul Bearer on television. I'm not just talking about the usual in memory of photo that we usually get every time someone dies, but the fact that they dedicated the show, the entire show for the most part, to Paul Bearer in respect, out of numerous vignettes and whatnot, out of numerous vignettes and then mentions and everything, with the incorporation of the Brothers of Destruction reunion, or what we got of it at the end of the show. That was great to see as well. And if they're going to be incorporating they're going to be incorporating Kane into the feud as well in coming weeks, I'm all for that as well. Brothers of Destruction have been together since last year's Raw 1000 event, which Paul Bearer, I believe, was supposed to be at, but couldn't make it due to a conflict. And it's kind of sad thinking back on it now that we'll never be able to see that again. Well, with that being said, at the end of the last night's Raw, CM Punk ended up taking the urn, which I guess will be playing a pivotal role in this feud going forward. Now, CM Punk could always take the the standard route of this feud and claim that he's going to be ending the streak at WrestleMania, the same route that we've been seeing for years and years and years now. It's grown stagnant, so they need to kind of add an extra bit of flair to this match, so to speak, given the fact that it's pretty much predictable that CM Punk's going to be coming up short of defeating The Undertaker and ending the streak at WrestleMania. I highly doubt that's going to be happening at WrestleMania. So, with that being said, they need to make Punk look strong going into the event. And I'm not talking about his loss to Kane, which I'm fine with, because Kane, being involved with Paul Bearer and The Undertaker, I think it was okay to have him defeat the former WWE champion last night in the main event of Monday Night Raw. So I'm okay with that. But on that same token, I think the feud itself could benefit from the death of Paul Bearer. And I'm not saying it's a good thing that Paul Bearer died or anything like that, but I'm just saying the fact that if you think about this, if Undertaker was okay with this all playing out on last night's Raw, and Paul Bearer's sons were okay with it, who were reportedly in the building last night for Monday Night's Raw, I think it's completely okay for WWE to go through with it. I'm okay with it. And again, if they only left it at the beginning, if CM Punk came out and interrupted the video and they left it at that, they didn't show any more video packages later in the night, they didn't make mention of it. If they just left it at that, then it would have been frustrated, but they're kind of making it into a bit of a storyline, which is, I mean, it's offensive to some people. As I was saying to one of my teachers who grew up watching Paul Bearer back in the day, was a bit offended by it. But again, I guess we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out in coming weeks. I'm certainly excited for it. The match at WrestleMania should be fantastic. The promos going into this event should be fantastic as well. But the whole incorporation of Paul Bearer into the storyline is extremely interesting. Because, I mean, we were talking about this last week on both my radio shows, how they were going to be dedicating Paul Bearer in dedication of Paul Bearer into this feud. The fact that how they're going to bring the urn and the Brothers of Destruction, if they're going to end up using Kane. My prediction was that they were just going to forget the entire thing. I mean, just air the video package in memory of graphic at the start of the show, and that'd be it. I thought that was all they were going to be doing. Thankfully, that's not what we got, and they dedicated almost the entire show to Paul Bearer, which was great to see. And Kane finally has a meaningful role on television for the first time in ever. That's great to see as well. But with that being said, I mean, as long as they don't go overboard with this entire thing, and a lot of people have been, making reference to the whole Eddie Guerrero situation from a few years back when Randy Orton and Batista respectively took shots at Eddie Guerrero, not necessarily took shots at him, but saying that he belonged in hell and whatnot when they were saying that during their respective feuds with Rey Mysterio over on SmackDown over the last few years. I can see why that's offensive, but CM Punk per se did not take any shots at Paul Bearer himself. Didn't criticize his appearance, his abilities, his legendary status and whatnot. He just made mention of the fact that he will not be able to see Undertaker lose at WrestleMania, or so he claims. So I'm okay with that. And again, they didn't go overboard with it by having Punk, disrespect Paul Bearer by criticizing him of his abilities and whatnot, but they rather just kept it simple. They had the urn thing, which is great to see. We haven't seen that since Undertaker's feud with Kane back in late 2010, where they were feuding over the World Championship. So again, I'm excited for this feud. It should be great regardless of whether they're going to be going forward with the Paul Bearer thing or not. Again, a lot of people are a bit on the fence about it, but again, we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out in coming weeks, and to see how WWE end up handling this. As long as they don't go overboard with it, as they've gone over the board or over the top with many storylines in the past, I'm okay with it. Both guys are fantastic in-ring competitors. Their match at WrestleMania should be amazing. It should be an amazing spectacle. So I'm extremely excited for that, and extremely anticipating as to what's going to be next coming in this feud come next week's Raw. So that being said, thanks for watching. Make sure to drop a like, subscription. Make sure to drop a comment below with your thoughts on the situation involving Undertaker and CM Punk. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for more of the discussion at @SAVE_US_GSM. Make sure to subscribe as well, as I said before. Make sure to enjoy the rest of your week. And this is GSM signing out. Till next time, guys.